Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Chef Yusuf Show, where we learn to cook the Islamic way. A lot of the Muslim people in the West, the children, the youth, even the elders, they always have a struggle and challenges when they go out to eat in restaurants or when they buy their food from, the stores. And a lot of us always complain about the sweets or the pastry or the cakes or the gelatin and all that stuff. But a lot of people do not realize that it goes further than that actually. And when it comes to soup, unfortunately, a lot of the soups, there is unlawful ingredients in it. And the best example of this, if you go to a Chinese restaurant, you see the wonton soup, which is the dumpling soup. It is a soup with the dumpling like in a clear broth. And actually, I didn't know until one of my Chinese friends came up to me and stopped me and told me, even though it says shrimp, they actually use the minced pork when they make the actual broth or the liquid. So I didn't know that, and this is one of the things that it's another challenge that we always keep to have asking. So why not make the stuff at home? To make wonton soup, this is the Chinese version of dumpling soup. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the recipe real quick. I'm gonna show you the method so you can be creative and make your own recipe at home. The basic or the methodology of this is you need a protein, twice its protein and one portion of green vegetable. Over here I have some cabbage. So for example, if I have 2 cups of ground meat or ground chicken or ground shrimp, any halal ground protein, meat I mean, so you use the twice a portion of 1 portion of the ground vegetable. I do have some cabbage over here, and for our dumpling we will make the ready wonton wrappers. I do apologize guys, when we make ravioli I'll show you how to make this stuff from scratch, but this is a shortcut. They sell this in the produce section in the refrigerator in every store in the West, so it shouldn't be an issue. Other than that, we just need some scallion or some green onions, and really that's how simple it is. This is one of the soups that actually we will make the broth while we make the dumpling, so you do not need to add the broth. We will use water. So we did add water. Now you can't use broth if you want to, if you can afford it, because we made so much broth in the first and second episode. We can actually put broth everywhere now. But so if you want to do that, you can do it on your own. But this is the method they use it in the restaurant, in the Chinese restaurant. Now, if you wish to open a halal Chinese restaurant, it's wonderful to have your version, the halal version of it. I do have some lamb over here. A lot of people make it with shim as well. All right. So using the ground meat, every time we add herbs and spices to ground meat, you add a little bit of liquid. You add a little bit water. I do have a little bit of stock or from chicken stock from previous episode. So we'll add a little bit. We'll mix it a little bit. We want to add maybe a little bit of salt, soy sauce, maybe 1 tablespoon, and mix it as well. Soy sauce is the substitute of salt every time you make any Asian cuisine or any Chinese food. When it comes to Chinese food, always avoid salt, use soy sauce. That's the method. We do have some sesame oil, just a little bit of sesame oil. And add a little bit of broth if you need to. So just mix this, make sure it's a creamy, creamy filling. We're gonna use this as the filling. Now we're gonna go ahead and add some thinly sliced green onions. And the green vegetable, of course, we want to slice this as small as we can. We want this to really blend into the meat. If you want to use your food processor, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to use the really thinly sliced method. It's really difficult to slice and talk at the same time. I give it up for those, celebrity chefs who talk and slice at the same time. It's really difficult, All right. So let's go ahead and add the green vegetable here. Now twice as much as protein and 1 portion of the green vegetable. So I might not add the whole thing. We'll see here if we need to. Add a little bit more of the liquid. So I'm going to show you the mixture over here. Okay, so we have our wrappers over here. We'll just add some water on the side. And really there is a million ways to make this, guys. The way you make it will reflect your personality. So you add a little bit water on the side. I'm not gonna go and be creative and show you like the crazy way to do this. I'm gonna do this just the simplest way and easy way. I'm gonna close this like an envelope, and I'm gonna wrap it like this, and then on the side I'll go ahead and stick the sides together. So as you can see, you can go ahead and be creative. It's a fun activity to do with your family. So let's go ahead and make them real quick. So let me show you the lazy man method. You put the dumpling and you just close it like this. Really like a sack of bag, So we have the heat underneath the water over here. We have our dumpling ready. We're gonna put this back in the freezer. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and prepare my sauce. This is gonna be a garlic soy sauce. Really simple. We have 2 garlics over here. I like to crush them, to peel them. It makes your life easier this way. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, chop them. After I chop them, and crush the garlic really in small bits and pieces. After this, we'll go ahead and add some of the sesame oil. So we have sesame oil, we have some soy sauce, and we have some garlic, and this is our sauce that will go with the dumpling. Put this aside. The water is boiling over here. The dumpling will go next, and this will take only from 5 to 8 minutes, maybe 6 or 7 minutes, it depends. All right, we'll wait for it to finish. In the meantime, I'm going to get my rest of the green onions. I'm going to slice them really thin. This will go as a garnish on top at the end. Right, so I got myself a bowl, I got myself a plate. When the dumpling rises on top, you can go ahead and remove them. But remember, from 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, it should be done. Okay, I always avoid to cook with water because water is the flavorless liquid on the planet. I do like to cook with stock or broth, but in this case we are making the actual broth. The water itself is extracting the flavors from the meat and the mixture that we had here. Now, the reason I'm showing you this because this is the traditional method to do it. But if you can add the stock, go ahead and discover and see how it tastes like. Make your own recipe. Make your own wonton invention, of course. Okay, so inshallah, let's go ahead and turn this off. Let's go ahead and remove the... So this is what you do. You take the liquid that we extracted from the meat and all of that beautiful flavors. Okay, I'm gonna put it right here. We'll go ahead and add a little bit of sesame oil. We'll add a little bit of the soy sauce, and this is where the color comes from in the soup. We do put the green onions and a little bit of our garlic sauce, just a little bit to give it a little bit of the garlic. And of course, if you like hot sauce, you go ahead and add it right now, as you can see. So the meat have wonderful flavors. You can taste the lamb, you can taste the soy sauce, and you definitely can enjoy it with the garlic. As for the soup, it's very clear, it's very delicate. It looks like consommé because we didn't use the stock. If you do use the stock, it will be a little bit murky. So this is the secret of making the soup very clear and very white and very delicate. When you eat this, make sure you say Bismillah and enjoy this, because 90% or almost all of the Chinese restaurants, they love to eat with, they love to cook this with pork. So this way you can have it the halal version. Just remember the methods. The method is a portion of protein, half a portion of any green vegetable to go with it. Green onions also can go on top. Any Chinese Asian cuisine will always add not olive oil, but sesame oil instead of olive oil, and some soy sauce instead of salt. So you have this. You can make this in Ramadan. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the greatest invention of the history, in my opinion. It's so great that it helped distribute the Quran all over the world. So it helped revolutionize the paper industry. We're talking about the invention of paper. I'll talk to you about it when we come back after the break, and the history and the Battle of Talas. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How many Muslims heard about the Battle of Talas? Unfortunately, it's not mentioned much in Islamic history. In the year 751 was a conflict between the Arab Abbasi Khalifa and the Chinese Tang dynasty for the strategic control of the area of Central Asia. The Battle of Talas marked the end of the Tang dynasty western expansion of their territories, this representing the furthest point of territorial expansion of the west by the Tang. The time when the Abbasi Khilafah decisively defeated the rival of the Umayyad Khilafah and freed up their armies for jihad against the Tang expansion into the region. In July 751, both the Tang troops and the Muslim troops met in the valley of the Talas River, where the Tang forces were defeated. The Battle of Talas is important because the resulting changes in the political fortune of the Muslims and the regional in general. The Battle of Talas was a key event in the history of paper. The technological transmission of paper-making process. After the Battle of Talas, knowledgeably Chinese prisoners of war were ordered to produce paper in Samarkand, or so the story goes. The Islamic conquest of Central Asia in the late 7th and early 8th century opened up this knowledge for the first time to what became the Muslim world. So by the year 794, paper manufacturing could be found in Baghdad. The technology of paper making was thus transmitted and revolutionized the Islamic world and later European West. So we can go on and on and on about the benefits of paper, but I wanted to stop and talk about some of the practical things we can learn from the invention itself. The interesting thing about the invention of paper, that is, nobody was able to figure it out. Unlike the telescope, for example, the telescope wasn't invented by Galileo, but Galileo heard about the invention, he thought about it, and he invented a better product. Paper, on the other hand, nobody was able to figure the technology out, which is very impressive. And when you think about printing, printing did not start until 1,000 years later by also the Chinese. So there was the invention of paper was 1,000 years ahead of its time. Other interesting thing about the invention of paper is that for the inventors and the entrepreneurs to think about the bigger inventions. My teacher always tells me that imagine if Thomas Edison was Muslim. Every time we turn on the light, we'll make dua for him. So the same thing, if the person who invented paper or who supported in the invention of paper, if his intention was to benefit mankind, we never know if he had that intention. If he died on Tawheed, he might receive a lot of reward. And same thing with us, same thing for the parents and the mothers. I want to encourage you to encourage your children to allow them to think of the big picture, the big invention, the things that will change our life for better, and so on and so forth. The other thing we learn about the invention or the paper making process, that the way they make paper is they boil a lot of wood, especially they want to extract the fibers out of wood, or back in the days it used to be bamboo wood. Today's technology, they use a lot of chemicals to allow the extraction of the fibers from the wood, but the old method is they used to cook the wood until to the melting point. They put them on filtered sheets and they dry them out. A lot of recycling groups talk about recycling paper, which makes sense because the fibers in the paper are very easily to reuse again. So you don't have to waste a lot of energy in extracting the fibers from the wood themselves. So the paper or the fibers, if you can reuse again and again. Now a lot of people talk about, because we did the episode about soups and the topic of China. Now paper is, you liquefy the paper to recycle it, so it becomes a sort of soup that you don't want to eat. So this is the only soup that we're gonna. Did you ever see a chef making a soup and he recommended that you're not supposed to eat it? So that's why I removed my apron. This is not a cooking class, but rather this is a lesson to give you the example how when you make food in large quantity, it makes economical sense and you make money for yourself, and the consumer themselves save money from buying it. If I want to make biryani for one person, it's cheaper for me to go and buy it rather than making putting a lot of time and energy for one small portion, right? The same thing with paper now. Paper is not worth it to recycle. I will say that again. Paper will use more energy to recycle at an individual level. But why people do it? People do it because it's a fun activity. It teaches the children about recycling, about caring for the planet, or caring for our cleanliness in this planet. And also it shows us how the technology, or not the technology, the science, what's the science behind paper recycling. You can do it. Maybe you can have your own paper. You can type in your resume that you want to work as someone who cares for the planet or something. I don't know. But you can recycle paper from the things that you can in your kitchen. You can use, for example, starch. Starch has a purpose, so it's not the important thing. But you have a lot of waste paper. You have something like maybe a nylon or something that is filtered, that is flat. Maybe some water and some blender. Really, this is how easy this stuff is. So to make this, by the way, the starch is to allow the paper to become silky. Remember, you ever notice those paper that is very smooth? When you write it and with your pen on it, the ink will not stick. So this is same thing. Add some water. And allow the paper to soak in. And there are a few methods of making recycled paper. I'll just show you one of them by using the kitchen utensils that you find in your home. So after you soak the water in, you want to add some water in the pan as well. And you'll add the filtered, either the filter or what we call, the nylon strip on the bottom here. So let's go ahead and plug this into the power. Alright, so this is our experiment. I'm experimenting with you guys. We're making paper soup that you are not supposed to eat. Alright, we'll soak in the water. Okay, so we'll soak in the water. And when we raise this up, and this is our final product, of course. In the middle, of course, we'll have a poke in the water here. So we'll make sure this is dried up. And when it dries up, you'll have a recycled piece of garbage, piece of paper. You'll have a recycled piece of paper. So if you added some of the starches, the water will become very silky, very smooth, just like those paper that you cannot write on. Every time you write on, the ink comes out. So the soup, the only soup that the chef will tell you not to eat, this is the soup of paper. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll talk to you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.